What we have here is a 2014 Chevy Spark that needs new rear shock absorbers. We're going to put new rear shocks on this car. It's not a difficult job. If your car needs shocks, you might just as well do it yourself. It's fairly simple to do. The first thing you do is get your car up in the air. I'm lucky enough to have a lift in my garage, but you can just jack the car up. Get jack stands underneath it, be safe. Get it high enough that you can get yourself under there on a creeper or a piece of cardboard or whatever you happen to use. Inside this car, we have to bend this panel back. Now, we can't remove this panel because over here it tucks underneath an airbag. And down in there, it goes underneath the seat, and up in here it wraps inside your trim. And the shock absorber end that we need to get at is right about there. Now, if GM had put a little access plate right there, we could have done this right through that access plate, but they didn't. So what we have to do is we have to remove a little plug right here, and right here, and right over here. And these three plugs hold this panel in place, and once we've removed them, then we can fold it back just enough that we can reach in behind and get the top of that shock absorber. Just for clearance, I intend to remove this wire from the speaker so that when I pull this by, I'm not going to break that wire. So let's squeeze that plug, give that a wiggle, and that will pop right off. And I'll tuck that right up out of the way right now. On this side, there's a light. I've put tape over that light so it's not blinding me. Now, I'm going to just pull that out. If I need to unplug that light, I will. I don't yet know. If I can ignore it, I'm going to ignore it, and we'll just work right past it. So first thing to do, get these three plugs out. In order to pull this plug out, you just sort of get underneath the head of it and pop it up gently. Now, if you have the proper tool, which I don't, then it's sort of a little plastic fork, and you just slide it under there and give it a little pop, and that will come right out. And I should probably buy the correct tool, but for right now, we're going to use a screwdriver because a screwdriver is what we have. Same thing over here, and take all three of them out. After you have removed the three plastic plugs that hold this panel in place, that light we're going to ignore for now. Just kind of get your hands behind it. Work it out gently. The idea is to bend it gently out so that you can get at that black plastic cap right there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an Armor All tin, and I'm going to jam an Armor All tin in place over here to hold. There we go. Jam that Armor All in place to hold that open so that we can get at this cap and pop. There's a metal cap underneath. We have to be careful. There we go. We want to pop just the plastic and don't mess up the metal. Now at this point, we have to hold the center while we undo the nut. The way that we remove this nut is that we have to use a wrench on the nut, and the top of the shaft is cut to take a wrench. So we'll put a socket on there, and we're going to turn the shaft inside the nut like this until the nut is off. Now before we completely remove this nut from the shaft, we need to come down underneath and we need to just support this just a little bit. I'm not sure that it would fall away, but if you can control the amount of tension on this bolt, we're not trying to jack it up. Don't jack it up like this, but just kind of take the weight off it so that we can pull that bolt out, which we're going to loosen up with a socket in just a minute. And now that we have that tension taken off of there, then we can go back up here and finish removing this nut. And there it is. But once the nut is off, you have things underneath that you have to save. They have to go back in when the new shock absorber goes in. So let's pull these off and keep them in order. Keep them stacked up the way they should be. And now we're going to go underneath and remove that bolt, and that shock will just come right out. Now that we have the top of the shock absorber unbolted, let's give a little shot of PB Blaster to the bottom. Right up in there and over there. We have just a little bit of tension taken off of that, not really pushing it up, but enough to hold it. And that's coming apart a little bit dry, but there it goes. All right, now that is loose up top. That's just rattly, so there's no weight on that, which is the idea behind this support. Pull that out, and that shock absorber will come out just like that. Now, as you take it out, these parts up here need to be reused on your new shock absorber, so be careful that you don't get these mixed up. We're going to take that apart in just a minute, and I'll swap that right onto the new shock. What we have here is a new KYB shock absorber purchased from rockauto.com. I buy quite a few parts from them. They're a good outfit. Comes with a new nut. Comes with instructions that are so confusing. I just do them right away. It is a gas charged shock, so it wants to expand. So it comes with this little strap, and you can kind of go just like that with that little strap, and that's going to start to come out. Now what we need to do, just kind of wiggle that. That will come off. Keep the whole stack just like that. Make sure there's nothing that is remaining that shouldn't. Find the hole up through there somewhere. Just like that. Let me get rid of that. Alright. And we'll keep that center in space where it goes. Push that right back down. And that's ready to go back in at this point. Now that's going to pop back up. That's fine. Let's give it a shot. See what happens. Stuff that up in there. There we go. Get that in there the right way. That goes in. Doesn't look too bad. Let me look. I put a little oil on that that metal piece, it had some corrosion on it, and I'm using the brand new nut that came with the new shock absorber, and I'm going to get that started just enough, for now, just enough, that can't fall out. And then I'm going down below. Now I have a little bit of corrosion on this bolt. There's a little bit of corrosion on the thread, so I'm going to put some anti-seize on it, so that the next time we want to take that bolt out, we'll be able to do so. And now that we're held up top, I'm going to try to just lower this and see what happens. Just like that. And we'll just wrench this back into place. Give it a bit of a tweak. And at this point, you're held up top. We can lower this down right here. Take that away. And we're halfway there. After you tighten the bottom of your shock absorber, come back up and tighten the top. Now, there's a good chance this inner shaft has 2 flats milled on it. So you can hold it with an adjustable wrench or the correct size. That's probably metric. I don't exactly know. On one side, I used just a pair of vice grips, and I gripped that and held it while I turned the nut. On the other side, I didn't need it. So you may luck out and not need it. So it's the luck of the draw. But that's now tightened. Before you tighten this down, make sure that this assembly is properly seated down in there. I had mine tipped up and caught on the side, and I had to pull it around a little bit to get it set down in. So once you have that tightened down, that will go down until it stops. There will be a certain point where that will stop, and you can see roughly the distance we're going, but you'll tighten and it will spin and spin, and then all of a sudden it will snub right up, and that's where it belongs. So put this on just like that. That snaps into place. Get all my junk out of the way. And we will just push this panel back into place just about like that. Plug in my speaker once again. About like that, I think it is. And then take our 3 little pins that we pulled out, pop them back in. They just push right in. Just like that, just as simple as that. Just like that. We'll pull the light off. And we're done. That was an easy job that you can do by yourself and save quite a bit of money over running to the dealer.